My name is Ilima Long. I'm a resident here in Honolulu. I'm Native Hawaiian, and I'm pursuing my PhD in political science. I'm also part of the Mauna leadership team that established the Pu'uhonua on the evening of July 13th, and have been very active in the Mauna movement since then, but also since 2010, when we first heard that the TMT wanted to be built. I really do appreciate the questions that have been asked so far by the committee, but I have another question that I think is very, very important in considering the possibility of what is being proposed. And that question is, how important is it, the trust from the Native Hawaiian community to the success of this process? How important is trust from the Native Hawaiian community to the success of this process? And I would say that we need to look at particular things to start to think about how that's going to go. First of all, everybody was surprised when this piece of legislation came out. Nobody knows where it came from. Nobody in the community that I've talked to knows where it came from, and I've even talked to friends that I have that work at OHA, and they have no idea where it came from. I would at least think that if this proposal was hatched with the help of Hawaiian Affairs, House or Senate committees, that somebody on one of those committees or a Hawaiian legislator would have had their name on it. But rather what we saw was that President Kochi and Speaker Saiki are the introducers of this bill. Speaker Saiki is absolutely pro-TMT, and in his Star Advertiser comments following what was perhaps the biggest showing of Native Hawaiians at the opening day of the legislature this year, were entirely dismissive. He said he didn't know what we want, as if he hasn't been paying attention these past 6 months. On top of that, looking at the initial testimonies today by the Office of the Governor and the Attorney General, this is actually going to be the biggest hurdle for this. The Attorney General, as we know, is in the process of subpoenaing Kahea in order to attack and try and harm and dismantle and criminalize the activity on Mauna Kea right now. Governor Ige, of course, is responsible and watched over the arrest of our kupuna, issued a ridiculous emergency proclamation, and continues to try and find ways to move the TMT forward, okay? So we have pro-TMT all over the initiation of this bill. And we also have the two leading state executives that are coming at Native Hawaiians and Kia'i right now like we've never seen in our lifetime, that are standing in strong support of this. It's totally flawed already, and it's going to be really difficult to gain the trust of the Native Hawaiian community. I know I don't trust it already. I want to lastly revisit some of the lessons from the fiasco that followed the passage of Act 195 in 2011, which is what initiated the Na'iaupuni process, the AHA, and all of that. The language and the discourse around that was also that the governor would appoint a commission, and that it's the commission that would determine the process and set everything up. And that very top-down process was totally insufficient. And the commission was appointed to see through a particular agenda. And it was perhaps the most divisive year that I've ever seen among Native Hawaiian community as that process rolled out, which rolled out, coincidentally, we're learning from history here, right after the unification of 2015 around Mauna Kea, and then that process went into action and tore our community apart, much of which wasn't healed until we all came together again last summer for Mauna Kea again. So that had a real harmful impact on our community. These are my words of caution. We are doing our homework to find out more about where this bill came from and what its function is. But honestly, when we hear the governor, the Attorney General, Canada-France Telescope come out in strong support, and is being put forth by pro-TMT legislators. I mean, this is where we're starting from, and it's not a good starting place. One last thing, talking about Canadian reconciliation. Absolutely look at how that's going right now, because the Unistoten camp, the people of Wet'suwet'en right now, are also being criminalized, putting their bodies on the line and having to stand off against the Canadian government and a corporation the same way we are on the Mauna right now. And this is all happening under the guise of reconciliation. And of course, Canada is a partner in TMT, and they don't have a good track record in their own country in terms of their reconciliation process right now. I absolutely encourage everybody to look at the scholarship that comes from Native people on reconciliation processes and the critiques that comes out of those scholarship, and I'm happy to provide resources at another time as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, Chair Yamane and Vice Chair Todd and members of the committee. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify. My name is Helani Sonora Pale. I'm the chair of Kalahui Hawaii Hui Kalai'aina Political Action Committee. And I want to just note that as of this morning, there were at least 300 testimonies in opposition to HCR 37. Kalahui Hawaii stands in strong opposition to HCR 37. In March 1999, the U.S. federal government commenced a reconciliation process with the Native Hawaiian people, and then published a report from its findings entitled From Malka to Makai, The River of Justice Must Flow Freely, in 2000. This report stated that the Kanaka Maoli people have made clear their desire for increased self-determination. In other words, increased Kanaka Maoli control over lands, resources, and affairs. But it was also made clear in that report that self-determination is limited in the federal framework by that process, undermining true self-determination where all options are on the table, including independence from the U.S. This measure attempts to start a reconciliation process with the Kanaka Maoli people and state of Hawaii with the appointment of a Blue Ribbon Reconciliation Commission appointed by the governor. The first task of this commission will be to examine and establish a reconciliation process for Mauna Kea. Any process that begins with gubernatorial appointees is state-initiated and flawed from the beginning, especially a reconciliation process for Mauna Kea. In the month of July 2019 alone, Governor Ige called the National Guard on peaceful protectors of Mauna Kea, dismantled traditional ahu altars and structures used in religious ceremonies on Mauna Kea, and arrested 38 elders who were blocking construction of the private 30-meter telescope on Mauna Kea Access Road. More recently, this administration is targeting organizations that have shown support and helped to sustain the occupation of Mauna Kea by peaceful protectors, demonstrating that Governor Ige and his administration do not have the best interest of the Mauna Kea protectors in mind and will use whatever means necessary to clear the way for TMT, including a bogus reconciliation process, which this is. Any state-initiated reconciliation process would be within the context of the state laws and constitution, which already protect and recognize many Kanaka Maoli rights and entitlements. However, the state of Hawaii has shown time and again that they will not follow their own laws and legal precedents when it comes to Kanaka Maoli rights and entitlements, always putting the burden of proof on Kanaka Maoli and distorting the laws to serve corporate interests. With this said, the governor-appointed commission to look into reconciliation is disingenuous. And any true process of reconciliation should start with a real heartfelt apology and admission of the wrong that was done to the Mauna Kea protectors and kupuna and the larger Kanaka Maoli community. And I just want to say, we cannot even trust the state to fully fund DHHL, let alone OHA, right? And that's like in our state constitution. And we're gonna trust them to start a reconciliation process in the best interest of Kanaka Maoli? I don't think so. Especially not in the best interest of our most sacred Mauna Kea. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify.
wanted to ask your advice if this were to move forward as a commission. One of the most important things you said is establishing trust. How could this commission be set up, and what would the process be in order to build trust with the Hawaiian community? What's your suggestion?
Take the governor out of it, for one. Specifically this governor. And I'm not saying that because of any personal feelings that I have about this governor. It's, to me, a political no-brainer.
Okay.
But also, there are discussions happening among the Hawaiian community about different visioning processes. And I think that there are some people in this legislative building who are aware of that. So what I didn't make clear is that I personally oppose, and I think that this bill should die. But I do think that there's opportunity for sincere and genuine communication lines to be opened that can support a grassroots-led and designed initiative that leaves the power in the people's hands to determine the future of particular issues, whether that's Mauna Kea or the other kind of broad, vague issues that the bill points to. I also very much agree with former Chair Apo's assessment that it also seems disingenuous to put a reconciliation process forward when the state totally knows what it needs to do. They absolutely know. We've gone through this before. We've been saying for a long time the same thing. Stop trying to develop our sacred lands. Stop trying to privatize and develop on our unceded lands, and drive down the cost of living and make this place livable. I mean, it's not that crazy, right? But it's very clear, even in the language of the bill, that this, whatever is the outcome of this, is supposed to be agreed upon for the benefit of Native Hawaiians, the state of Hawaii, and the United States of America. And even that language is very problematic. And I want to just correct or disagree with one thing that Peter Alpo said.
Okay, so
we're not tribal, we're educated.
Yeah,
We're not going to debate.
Okay.
I appreciate that you've got comments on others, but I just wanted to understand how you thought we could build trust. And I appreciate your comments already, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Any other
testifying
members have
today.
questions?
Aloha. My name is Walter Riddy, and I'm one of the kupuna that got arrested on Mauna Kea. And I've spent a lot of time up at Mauna Kea. And I've also spent a lot of time in the Hawaiian community and trying to figure out how we're going to move forward as Hawaiians. Somebody punted the ball to you guys. It seems like the leadership in the House and the leadership in the Senate and the leadership upstairs is trying to figure out how to manage this Mauna Kea problem. And the solution that we're faced with this morning is pretty complicated. We're talking about reconciliation. We're talking about all kinds of things. You guys don't have an idea as how all of this is going to move forward. So I'd like to give someone about narrowing all of this down to first solving one problem at a time. And the main problem is Mauna Kea. So instead of receiving the punt, you should punt the ball back. And the governor, the president of the Senate, and the leadership in the House should get together and meet with the leaders up at Mauna Kea and talk about the restructuring of management of that mountain. And once that is done, then whoever's managing that mountain can make a decision whether or not the TMT is built. It should not be placed in this kind of a forum. The Hawaiians have been through this process many times and have come out the losers. Every time you form some kind of a committee, people count votes before they even start, and you know the results that's going to happen before it ends. So there is no trust. So my suggestion is to have the leaders talk to the leaders and solve this problem. Mahalo.
Walter, thank you for being a pioneer in all of these particular issues. Was that a note of modesty when you said you only been arrested once and it was on the mountain?
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, it's been more than. And the point is to thank you for being so attentive to all of these Hawaiian issues and all of the things that are in the process. I don't know if Tricia Watson is here or is in earshot or sight of what I'm going to ask you, but she, as well as you, have said from marching to voting as one of the processes. Is that something that intersects with what this is or is not? Because, and I think he's gone, but Peter Apo has always stressed the lack of political muscularity in the Hawaiian community. We don't have a lot of Hawaiians on this panel. We don't have a lot of Hawaiians in this legislature. But within the system, if there would be the muscularity to say, okay, here's what we're going to do because we have the votes. Is that still your position, to get as many Hawaiians engaged in the 2020 process, which would impact things such as what we're talking about today?
I've been involved in several Hawaiian issues over the years. And I've seen the Hawaiian community grow, but I've never seen anything like what happened up at Mauna Kea. Nothing comes close to what happened at Mauna Kea. And I'm sure some of you haven't been able to actually see what's going on up there and how it's spreading throughout the Hawaiian community, spreading through the Pacific. And it's also now linked up with many of the things happening on the United States. You guys are dealing with a whole different Hawaiian community. And I don't know how to express that to make that so important, so that when you make your decisions, you're not relying on what you knew from the past or what has happened to Hawaiians before. Hawaiians, it's almost like the thing is ready to boil over, and it could go in any direction. So the direction that we're pushing as some of the old guys is that in order for us to convince you guys, we're going to have the ability to influence you, and that is through the voting process. Many Hawaiians have a hard time realizing, how can we participate in a process that is illegal? So when you talk about reconciliation, it's a huge topic that's going to take a while, and so I'm trying to take that away from this bill, on this resolution that you guys are trying to deal with. We're encouraging the Hawaiians to participate in the process to protect the things that we already have that we need to protect. So when we came this year to the opening of the legislature, that was the reason why we came, to give you guys a glimpse of how much more organized the Hawaiian community is. And we're not quite sure whether we're going to be able to guide that into a process where everybody comes out as winners. If we don't solve Mauna Kea, you guys, when I say you guys, I'm saying the state of Hawaii is going to have to act in a way that's going to be detrimental to everybody. Because we are not going to back down on Mauna Kea as Hawaiians. We cannot back down. We cannot. All the years of struggling has come to the top of the mountain. And if we get pushed off that mountain, there is no place else for us to go. We have to win this battle as Hawaiians. So that's what you guys are dealing with. So that's what I'm saying. All this stuff that you guys are talking about, the same old way of resolving problems is not going to work. The leaders need to get together to solve this problem. I have seen the leadership at Mauna Kea. Excellent Hawaiian leadership. What they formed out there make all of us as Hawaiians proud. It's a solid village that had been formed in the middle of and desolation. there's hope that the leaders of the state and the leaders of that mountain get together, there's hope for us.
Walter, I did have an opportunity one afternoon just to visit the Mauna. I don't think you were there that day, but I hear what you're saying. It seems to be that the trust in the governor's office to organize and implement this is not the highest. If we amended it to say that OHA would be the convening Blue Ribbon Party, would that make any difference?
No, this should be the leaders of the state and the leaders of that mountain to resolve this problem.
So the resolution as written?
The resolution as written, you guys got something, I don't know who, your leaders made that, the House and the Senate, and I don't even understand if they know what's going on.
The point of hearings, as you know, we obviously amend, negate, vote down, modify. If there are modifications, that's basically what my question would be.
What I'm saying, I'm recommending that the leaders get together and solve this. You're not going to get a whole bunch of Hawaiians in a room to agree on Mauna Kea. The Mauna Kea people who are going to be in the room, they're willing to die for their position. These other guys coming in, it's just waha. They don't have 3 sessions a day chanting to the mountain. They don't have the commitment that has shown for 212 days, 13 days now, every day, 3 times a day in the freezing cold, freezing water. Those kinds of commitments, you cannot move those kinds of commitments. I mean, the other guys coming in support of Mauna Kea, this TMT, they don't do anything but talk. They can't even get a room full of people to support them. So this thing is so off balance, but if it turns into violence of any kind, we all lose. And the Hawaiians cannot back down on this one. Only the leaders can solve this problem.
Well, thank you for your testimony and for your activism. Thank you, Chair.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha, Chair Yamane, Vice Chair Todd. What is baga? Aloha to everybody here. My name is Kauko'ohu Ahilani, no Puya Maiao, that's Waianae Valley. I also send my testimony online, and I also am a registered voter. Yeah. And I am in opposition of this measure. But I wanted to share some mana'o. There can be no reconciliation without justice. And I appreciate what Chair Yamane and Ward was asking her questions about, all the wrongs that had happened historically and still being done to Kanaka, to the first people. No more Hawaiians, no more Hawaii. But I really appreciate you guys' concerns. But for me, you're looking at a byproduct of all those historical traumas that happened to my people and still being happened today. I was on the mountain when Uncle Walter them got arrested. I was up there in 2015 too, trying to get arrested. I was up on Haleakala trying to get arrested with Kalekoa them too. I had to come back home on Oahu and get arrested in Kalailoa. Like Uncle Walter had said, the commitments now that we as the Lahui and everything that we're doing, we try to do it in a nonviolent direct action. But like Uncle Walter said, if things don't change, I wouldn't want to even think about if violence was even to spread. Yeah. We kept 38 nights on Kalailoa with the emphasis on keeping our people safe. And it was true kapa aloha that the Mauna is still here, that has reawoken our people once again, like 2015. First time I ever talked publicly was over here in 2014 when the DOI and the DOJ came in. This room was packed. I wish today was packed like that too, but mahalo for everybody that would testify and that would send their testimonies online. But Chair Yamane, mahalo for seeing this, but the truth of the matter is there's no treaty of annexation. And you guys heard this, but I'm going to say them again. And for those that going, for those that going to turn their head around, the truth is, through international law and U.S. constitutional law, no country can occupy another country without a treaty of annexation, not a joint resolution. It failed twice, all right? And then what Dr. Kianusai has been doing with the laws of occupation. You know, you folks have that judicial duty to follow those things that Jennifer Rugos herself did. And the laws of occupation states that the occupier, in this case would be the United States, has to adhere to the laws of the occupied, which would be the Hawaiian Kingdom laws. Simple as that. And it's out there. Dr. Kianusai has defended his dissertation on that. And he had experts from all over those fields to poke holes in his dissertation, and they couldn't find any. And that's how he was able to establish his PhD. All right, so just do what is pono. And for everybody that was born in Hawaii, that really love Hawaii, and I love the first people first. And before you guys start barking at us as why we so violent or uneducated, that's totally wrong. This is a new day, but we don't forget what happened. And there's information, irrefutable facts that is out there. So please, as policymakers, please look into those things and see. I'll call each and every one of you folks out on that and prove me wrong, that there was no treaty of annexation, that there was a treaty of annexation. So that being said, he Hawaii au maua mau. Mahalo.